Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Rebecca Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan El Rome.
In our top story, Israel has targeted and destroyed key components of Iran's nuclear weapons infrastructure in precision strikes. Israeli fighter jets penetrated deep into the Islamic Republic, hitting uranium enrichment sites, ballistic missile facilities, and targeting senior terror leaders. Intelligence experts believe Iran was just days away from acquiring nuclear weapons when Israel attacked. This operation took years to plan and was executed with support from members of the Iranian resistance who collaborated with Israeli agents on the ground. Together, they built a sophisticated drone factory on Iranian soil under the noses of Tehran's notorious secret police. Operation Rising Lion will go down as one of the most sophisticated covert missions in history. Within just a few days, Jerusalem was able to destroy most of Iran's nuclear sites and weaken the Ayatollah's hold over the people. The Israeli Air Force now controls the skies over Tehran, marking a major strategic victory in the battle against the fanatic Islamic Republic.
The people of Israel have spent the last week scrambling for bomb shelters as Iran fired hundreds of ballistic missiles on the Jewish state in retaliation for strikes on its rogue nuclear weapons facilities. Dozens of Israelis have been killed and hundreds have been injured in the devastating attacks. Israel's multi-tiered defense system, the Arrow, the Iron Dome, and David's Sling have been working overtime to protect the country from relentless drone and missile attacks. The Jewish state also activated its Lightning Shield defense system for the first time. It allows Israel to intercept hostile aerial weapons delivery systems at significant distances from the Israeli homeland over the eastern Mediterranean and the Red Sea. The majority of the missiles fired from Iran were intercepted before reaching Israeli airspace, but unfortunately there were several direct hits in Israel.
Before launching attacks against Iran's nuclear facilities, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stopped to pray at the holiest site in Judaism. Netanyahu wrote down a scripture from the book of Numbers, chapter 23, verse 24, and placed it between the ancient stones of the Western Wall. The note read, "Behold, the people shall rise up as a great lion." The mission to destroy Iran's nuclear facilities was dubbed Operation Rising Lion, based on this biblical passage. The Jewish people continue to see prophecy unfold in the land of Israel, and on the first Shabbat of the war with Iran, many were encouraged by the weekly Torah reading in Numbers chapters 8 through 12. These passages speak of the nation of Israel going to war and of God saving them from their enemies.
Israel continues to attack Iranian nuclear and military infrastructure, but has not yet targeted the Fordo nuclear facility. This heavily fortified complex is located a half-mile underground in a mountain in central Iran. Experts believe that in order to destroy this nuclear site, Israel will need the help of American bunker-buster bombs and mid-air refueling tankers. U.S. President Donald Trump indicated that he was open to supporting Israel in dismantling Fordo. He said the United States is looking for a real end to the Iranian nuclear threat, not just a ceasefire.
The Israel Allies Foundation has joined a historic initiative supporting President Trump in preventing Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. This campaign, launched by the IIAF, American Christian Leaders for Israel, JDA Worldwide for Change, and Ambassador Sam Brownback, has already garnered the support of millions of pro-Israel Christians across the United States. It urges President Trump to take the bold steps necessary to eliminate the Iranian nuclear threat once and for all, and to support regime change, ending 4 decades of Islamic tyranny in Iran. The coalition warned that Tehran's pursuit of nuclear weapons is not just a regional concern, it is a global crisis. A nuclear-armed theocracy in Tehran would embolden terrorists, endanger America and its allies, and risk igniting war in the Middle East. Josh Reinstein, the president of the IIAF, said, "The time has come to act with strength, not hesitation." Christians across America who form the backbone of the Republican Party are rallying together to call on President Trump to support Israel and join the charge against the Iranian nuclear threat. Reinstein said, "This could be President Trump's finest hour by joining forces with Israel and finally putting an end to the greatest danger facing the free world today."
Jerusalem praised tech mogul Elon Musk for deploying Starlink and finally giving the people of Iran unfiltered internet access for the very first time. The Ayatollah's iron-fisted regime has worked hard to prevent the Iranian people from viewing social media and foreign news sites. When Israel attacked the radical Shiite Republic, the government in Tehran shut down the internet entirely. Israeli officials applauded the decision of the high-tech entrepreneur to provide important information to the Iranian people. They called the initiative a vital step toward supporting the rights of the Iranian people, enabling them to receive accurate information, organize peacefully, and expose the regime's abuses. Israel's foreign ministry is working overtime to communicate messages of peace to the people of Iran. It reported that within 24 hours of receiving internet service, more than 20 million Iranians logged on to its Persian-language social media sites. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu used Starlink to broadcast messages to the citizens of Iran and encouraged them to stand up to their fanatic leaders. He said just as Cyrus the Great freed the Jews from Persia, now it's the Iranian people's turn to be free.
The Jewish state launched a massive campaign to return over 150,000 Israelis who were stranded abroad when Israel closed its airspace last week. Minister of Transportation Miri Regev announced that private airlines will operate rescue flights and that Israeli-owned Mano Maritime Shipping will bring Israelis home by sea. Desperate to get back and join the fight, dozens of Israelis made their way to the island of Cyprus, where they heard rumors of an Israeli woman ferrying stranded Jews back to the Promised Land. 45-year-old Anna Sorenchko from Bat Yam chartered a yacht and began taking Israelis home from the port at Limassol. She said that she was moved by the plight of parents separated from their children and reserve soldiers rushing back to the front lines to defend the Jewish state.
Danny Danon, Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, called on the UN to act against the fanatic Islamic Republic. Danon said the world body needed to shift its focus to the threats posed by Tehran. He was responding to a last-minute cancellation of a UN summit on the unilateral establishment of a Palestinian state. The Israeli mission to the United Nations joined the United States and several other countries in boycotting that conference. Jerusalem released a statement warning of diplomatic consequences for any nation that takes anti-Israel actions on the world stage. It also noted the inappropriate timing of the event to advance a Palestinian state as Israel fights a defensive war for its existence on multiple fronts. Danon said Iran has caused regional chaos through its network of terror proxies, and a nuclear Iran poses an existential threat to Israel and the entire world. The Israeli diplomat insisted that the UN's only focus right now should be on stopping Iran from becoming a destructive nuclear-armed state.
Just before Israel struck Iran's nuclear facilities, a rare medieval Bible that had been on a worldwide exhibition tour was finally returned to the Jewish state. The Bible was created by Rabbi Shem Tov ben Avraham ibn Gaon. He completed this monumental work of biblical and artistic scholarship in Spain in the year 1312. Rabbi Shem Tov brought the Bible to Israel and studied it faithfully until his death in 1330. The Bible changed hands many times over the centuries and was taken to several countries in the Middle East, Africa, and Europe. It will be on display in Jerusalem's newly completed National Library.
Argentinian President Javier Milei was honored in Jerusalem for his unequivocal support for the Jewish state at a time of growing international isolation. Milei is the first non-Jewish person to be awarded the Genesis Prize. Israeli statesman and former prisoner of Zion in Russia, Natan Sharansky, told the Argentine leader that he is a real hero to the Jewish people. Milei shifted Argentina's foreign policy toward an alliance with the United States and Israel after decades of strained ties. He vowed to donate the $1 million prize money to launch an initiative aimed at improving diplomatic relations between Israel and Latin America. Milei said he will always be an ally of Israel and that his country will stand on the right side of history. He also announced plans to move Argentina's embassy to the undivided Israeli capital, Jerusalem. That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. We're here in our beautiful studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Remy Reinstein. He's my brother and also the CEO of Oasis Health Tech. Remy, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks so much, Josh. Happy to be here.
Tell our viewers a little about what is Oasis Health Tech.
So we're a new cutting-edge supplement company that focuses on clinical trials and things that can actually work in your body and absorb properly.
It's interesting. When you think about supplements, you don't necessarily think about Israel, but Israel is a juggernaut in the industry. How did Israel get into this industry at all?
Well, supplements is based on science and technology, and Israel has it in spades. We also have amazing land with lots of minerals. Our magnesium, for example, comes from the Dead Sea itself.
So what does the product actually do? What are you actually doing with Oasis Health Tech?
So we have multiple different types of products. One of our flagship products is Gut Secrets, which is actually something that helps with the microbiome. So that is the next generation of pre and probiotics, which is called a postbiotic. We actually also have a patented magnesium molecule that's inside of our products that is the most bioavailable magnesium in the market today. And magnesium and bioavailability means the way that it absorbs into your body. So our magnesium is 2.7 times more absorbed than any other magnesium in the market today.
You know, a lot of people in Israel take supplements. It's a big deal. In America, there's a little doubt, though. Some people say, you know, we like traditional medicine, but that's kind of breaking up, too. How big is the market in America?
Well, the market is massive. I mean, 50% of supplements being sold around the world is being sold in the U.S. alone, especially now with President Trump and also RFK with the MAHA movement. People are focusing less on the pharmaceuticals out there and looking forward and looking towards supplements. With the science and technology that we have, we're able to supercharge these ingredients to make it much more effective on the body.
That's a good point that you mentioned. MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, is a big movement, and they are very reliant on supplements. So is this giving a boon to the industry?
100%. We see in the next 4 years a huge boom in the industry. People are talking about supplements. One of the differentiators between supplements and pharmaceuticals is the clinical trial aspect of things. So pharmaceuticals have clinical trials, but now we're seeing companies like myself that actually spend the time, the money, and the research into these clinical trials to prove that our products work.
How did Israel get involved in this? Why are we such a big, massive producer of supplements around the world?
I believe it's the brainpower. I mean, the science and technology are here. They're creating formulas every single day, breakthroughs with taking natural ingredients that God has given us and combined it with that Israeli technology to make very, very effective supplements. And again, without any of those pesky side effects that pharmaceuticals come with.
I once heard a rabbi say that all the secrets of the world are found in the Torah. But also, all the things that we need are made naturally by God. Is that what you're seeing in the supplement field? Are they finding all the time new things that cure this or cure that they never knew before?
100%. I think not only are they finding new things, but the technology is caught up with where we are today to supercharge these ingredients to make them more effective.
Everything in technology now that people are talking about is AI and AI. What is the supplement world and AI? How can you mesh those two to have a new impact in the industry?
Well, I'm glad that you asked that. So we are Oasis Health Tech, and the tech part of us is our AI tool. So we have an AI tool called Sheerly, which is your wellness advisor. So this is a platform where they can actually people can go in, type what their ailments are, and Sheerly will be able to put together different ingredients that can help solve the problem and actually give you the clinical research and backing of why these ingredients will help you with your problem.
Do you anticipate doctors working with this platform as well in integrating traditional medicine with supplements, or are these two separate fields?
No, we see this all the time and actually growing further and further every year. Doctors now are recommending all different types of supplements. I mean, it used to be be just vitamin C and D and E, but now that they're finding that these supplement companies like Oasis Health Tech are putting the time and money and effort into clinical trials, they feel much more amped to actually recommend supplements because the clinical proof is there.
You know, when I was a kid, I used to take Flintstone vitamins and multivitamins and things like that. But today, it's gotten a lot more advanced for children, especially here in Israel. Are we seeing a trend for children using supplements as well?
100%. I mean, we have a product that's specifically for kids and their immune system. We know a lot of times when kids go to school, they start getting all these viruses and sicknesses. So we have a postbiotic, which again is the next generation of pre and probiotics that really helps with that gut health. And now they've actually done the research that 70% of your immune system comes from your gut. So if you have a healthy gut, you have a healthy immune system.
It's interesting that we see that Israel is taking the lead in yet another industry, not just because of the technology, but actually in manufacturing. We're making supplements here. Is that because we're growing the ingredients, or is it just because we've cornered kind of this market as something that Israel thinks is important?
I think it's a combination. I think we're growing manufacturing here in Israel. I know we're one of the largest producers of gummy vitamins in general. So that became huge in the state of Israel, and we export it all over the world. But it's also the science, technology, and the ingredients that we can get here in the land of Israel.
What's the future of supplements? What are we going to see 10, 20 years from now?
I believe that the clinical research is key. So about 95% of companies right now that sell supplements have not spent the time and effort to actually be doing clinical trials. I think now people are understanding that if you do the clinical trials and you can prove that your products work, like at Oasis Health Tech, that people are going to be very, very excited to try and use these type of supplements. Because again, at the end of the day, pharmaceuticals is riddled with side effects.
Remy, there are literally tens of millions of people watching the show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
The message is that God gave us everything that we need here in the world. We have all the ingredients, all the plants, the fruits that can help with your wellness journey. And now in 2025, we're able to combine this Israeli technology and the ingredients from God together to create very, very impactful and meaningful solutions, and will guide you through your wellness journey. So pharmaceuticals is really not the way of the future, as supplements is, and you're going to start seeing a lot more of them.
Thank you, Remy, for being on the show, and thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
And now the truth from Zion.
It's one of the oldest empires in the world, but it's been through many changes in modern history. Iran has gone from a global powerhouse to an isolated country. How did we get here? The Iranian Revolution changed the country's society virtually overnight when the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps overthrew the government of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi in 1979. Pahlavi was the last Shah of the imperial state of Iran. The term Shah is used as a royal title. He ruled the nation for nearly 38 years, from 1941 to 1979.
The Shah's new government appears determined to press ahead with liberal reform.
Despite the fact that Pahlavi's reign brought Iranian society to new heights, giving opportunity to women and eradicating norms like teenage marriage, many were desperate for change. The monarchy was accused of corruption, human rights abuse, and most prominently, economic inequality. Tragically, the people did not realize that those who would replace the Shah would ultimately make their lives much worse. By 1977, many Iranians had become dissatisfied with the Shah, calling him a repressive dictator. At this time, Iran had an oil boom, and the general public argued that the wealth was not fairly distributed. In the fall of 1978, civil servants walked off the job, followed by a crippling strike from oil workers.
Almost 40,000 refinery workers went on strike today, virtually cutting off Iran's petroleum exports.
The oil strikes cost Iran some $60 million per day. Protesters demanded a more Muslim way of life.
University students demonstrating in Tehran, shouting death to the Shah, pledge allegiance to the Islamic movement of the Ayatollahs.
A key figure in the revolution emerged from the sidelines. Though he had followers for decades, religious leader Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini grew in popularity at this time. By the end of the 1970s, he was the symbol of opposition to the Shah's regime.
It is from the mosques that opposition to the Shah is being led by puritanical Shiite Muslims. The religious zealots want to return to the Constitution of 1906, which would ensure all legislation conforms with Islamic law.
In January 1979, the Shah was forced to flee the country. Former Egyptian President Anwar Sadat offered him asylum. The Shah died of cancer in the city of Cairo a year later. When the Shah left, Ayatollah Khomeini returned. He too had been exiled over his anti-Shah public expressions and for inciting riots in the street. Upon his return, he established the Islamic Republic. Khomeini and his supporters decided to create a new way of life for Iran. They combined religious principles from the Quran with governance. This would grow and impact the lives of everyone in the nation, especially women and the people of other faiths. With the takeover now complete, Khomeini became the supreme leader of Iran. The United States had been supporters of the Shah's regime, but were wary of an Islamic state in Iran.
The American embassy in Tehran is in the hands of Muslim students tonight. Spurred on by an anti-American speech by the Ayatollah Khomeini, they stormed the embassy, fought the Marine Guards for 3 hours, overpowered them, and took dozens of American hostages.
Washington hoped to use diplomacy to free the hostages, but to no avail. The U.S. then tried to stage a rescue by helicopter, but 2 of the 8 aircraft malfunctioned on the way to Iran, and another broke down at the rendezvous site. One of the helicopters in the fleet collided with a support plane, and 8 service members were killed. Their bodies were picked up by Iranians and paraded through the streets of Tehran in front of TV cameras. The revolution brought about many negative changes in Iranian society. Women lost their rights, and Islamic law was implemented. This led to human rights violations and the suppression of political dissent, which continues to be a concern today as women fight courageously in the streets for their right not to wear the hijab, which is a headscarf and a sign of modesty in Islam. Today, Iran does not have diplomatic ties with the United States and many other Western countries. The country works closely, though, with China, Russia, and Syria. Life in Iran is controlled by religious zealots, with Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei running the show.
Iran under the Ayatollahs faces severe decline due to corruption, drug issues, air pollution, and neglect of public welfare.
Iran is a pariah state, leaving many of its citizens dreaming of a day when it will realize past glories. Up next, the ICJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
Shalom, dear friends, here from Jerusalem. I want to approach you today with a complicated subject, and that is, what does the Bible say about war? And also, is Israel committing war crimes today in the Middle East? Of course, many Christians, in particular in the Western world, they are leaning very strong to pacifism. They say Christians should at no point enter into a war situation. And this situation, or this attitude in particular, arose in the dawn of World War II, that saw such horrendous bloodshed all across Europe and even beyond Europe. And Christians came to the conclusion that Christians should have no place in any war whatsoever. However, this is an attitude, of course, that the Western world can afford today, because neither most part of Europe, neither the United States or the North American continent were engaged on their own continent in any warlike situation. And I want to quote here one of our friends and theologian, Jerry McDermott, who wrote in one of the recent essays he did about the war and conflict with Hamas. Hamas in Gaza. He says the following: pacifism is the immoral privilege reserved for those who sit safely at home. And I believe there is a lot of truth to that, because here in Israel we cannot afford being pacifist, because otherwise the state of Israel would not be surviving. Israel needs to have his young men in the army to defend the safety of the nation of Israel, and they could not survive otherwise. And I want to quote a few centuries earlier, one of the church saints, Thomas Aquinas, what his take on war was. And he actually coined an expression that was called a just war. He says in his mind there is something like a just war. He says Christians should avoid, in any case, if possible, any war. But he says there is a just war under three conditions. He says, number one, he says, a just war is a just war when it's not initiated by individuals or by small militias. It needs to come from the king or from the government. And secondly, he says a just war is a war that has a just cause. That means it needs to punish evil and rectify wrong that are carried out. And thirdly, he says a war is a just war when the end of that war will be a more peaceful, a more righteous, a more just situation for the parties of that war. And in a way, I believe this definition can be helpful even applying to this current conflict, because I can assure you that Israel is not engaging this war with any vicious intent, but actually they want to bring forth a more peaceful solution and situation for the communities, not only around Gaza, but also for everybody who is living in Gaza. And I believe there is no doubt today around the world that the regime of Hamas in Gaza, it is an evil regime that defies any respect for human rights or human dignity or human values. And there is a great consensus around the world that they need to disappear from the Gaza communities, and if possible also from other areas in the Middle East. And I want you to pray for Israel in your churches, in your congregation, that they experience that the Lord is mighty in battle on their side, that he is fighting their battles as they are ridding the world of the evil of this wicked terrorist organization. And I wish you God's blessing to that. Shalom from Jerusalem.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Rebecca Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan El Rom, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.